In 2016, a faction of the Turkish military tried to coup the Erdogan government for failing the secular principles of the governance and letting Islam into Turkish politics. The coup failed miserably. Close to 1,000 people died and left thousands wounded. In the aftermath included the arrest of 10,000 soldiers and 1,500 judicial members behind the bars. 3 news agencies, 16 TV stations, 23 radio stations, 45 newspapers and 15 magazines and 29 publishers were ordered to shut down. The military coup was allegedly led by Fethullah Gulen, who was leading coup from Pennsylvania, United States, allegedly on the reckoning of the US government. Well, don't worry, I'm not here to discuss the failed Turkish coup of 2016, but the constitutional empowerment to the Turkish military of being the sole protector of the secular principle of Turkish Republic. Yes, the Constitution of Turkish Republic empowers the military to seize power if government fails in managing economic or political crisis, or if the government is found violating the secular principle enshrined by the Turkish founding father, Mustafa Kemal Attaturk. And Erdogan is pretty much doing it with a bang by putting back Islam into Turkish civilian life. But can the military these days overthrow the Erdogan government for violating the secular principle like it did previously? Well, not anymore. The Turkish military had been a pivotal actor in political life of modern Turkey, both domestically and abroad. But its role and position in contemporary Turkey have been curbed significantly. The military began to rise in prominence after the modern secular Republic of Turkey was founded by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk in 1923. With the help of the Officers' Corps, Atatürk converted Turkey from Islamic Caliphate into secularized and westernized state. After his death in 1938, secularism became the dominant ideology. Headscarves were banned, Islamic education was banned, burqas were banned, Arabic numerals were banned and replaced by Latin numerals. Modern education for women was made compulsory and European lifestyle was introduced. And if these principles were ever found to be violated by the political masters, then the military was provided with the power to topple the government. And the army generals assumed the role of its sole protector, the sole protector of the secular principle of Turkey. Actually, Atatürk and many leaders in the early republic were former military officers. The military has always had a significant role in Turkish society as a steward of secular values. Although civilians ran the government, the military used to play a leading role in forming the country's foreign and security policies. Turkey even had a good relation with the Jewish state of Israel since its formation, even when the rest of the Islamic world was trying to throw the Jews out of Israel. That all happened because of the secular values enshrined in Turkish constitution by Kemal Atatürk. Military has been propounded as the guardian of secularism. As a self-declared guardian of Atatürk's secular legacy, the military remained associated with a tradition of upheaval and history of overthrowing unpopular governments at times of political chaos and economic crisis. The military staged 3 coups between 1960 and 1980. In all the 3, the military complained that Islam was becoming too much involved in the Turkish political sphere. Timur Kuran, a politics and economics professor at Duke University in North Carolina, told Al Jazeera that every single of those coups was undertaken by fiercely secular and fiercely pro-Western officers who felt that Turkey's Western progressive path was being compromised. By the end of 1980s, the ideological divide between Turkey's right and the left was coming to an end, paving the way for political Islam to emerge as the state doctrine. In 1997, the Welfare Party, which was the first conservative and religious party in Turkey to win a general election, was forced to resign by the military. The resignation of a party's founder, Necmettin Erbakan, who was the prime minister, became known as the post-modern coup. The military even warned of a threat to national security caused by Erbakan's effort to raise the profile of Islam, and that led to Erbakan resigning 4 months later. Now fast forward to 2016. Now in 2016, the Gulenists officer of Turkish military tried to overthrow the Erdogan government. Gulenists are basically the follower of US-based cleric Fethullah Gulen. Gulenist movement, which the Turkish government has branded as terrorist organization called FETÖ, the Gulen was living in self-imposed exile in the United States since 1999, and he was once a strong ally of Erdogan, with his organization enjoying its golden years during the early years of AKP. When Erdogan's AKP party came to power, the military was not at all pleased. The AK party, which was formed from the pro-Islamic welfare party tradition, came to power in 2002, but with a more liberal and pro-European Union agenda. When the AKP came to power, the military was not at all pleased. They were hoping initially that the AKP would self-destruct, make a mess of things and lose popularity. But the AKP decided, and this was Recep Tayyip Erdogan's brilliance, to embrace democracy and to stay clear of policies that would threaten the military or move Turkey away from Europe. This discourse allowed the Erdogan to disarm the constituencies in Turkey that instinctively sided with the military against religious conservative groups. He also started campaigning for modernizing the constitution. Well, actually, the constitution included the provision for military's role in protecting the ideals of the republic. Erdogan framed the new constitution in terms of becoming more modern and more European. After all, which European country has a constitution that gives its military the right to interfere in civilian politics when it senses certain principles are at stake? This argument was extensively used by Erdogan to snatch away the historical power of military to interfere to secure secular values into Turkish politics. Initially, AK party's liberal discourse in the beginning enabled the party to win hearts and minds among intellectuals, youth, businessmen, and media. And it was largely perceived by the West as compromise between secular and religious factions that could see an end to the military interventions. The AK party also introduced reforms that altered the civil-military relations. It went on to render the powerful National Security Council, a civil institution, brought security expenditure under the civilian control, and freed universities and media from military inspections. Yes, the Turkish military officers inspected the universities and schools to ensure that secular values are followed and to ensure that non-interference of Islam. These changes restored the people's confidence in public institutions. Actually, ultra-Orthodox Turkish Muslims saw these secular practices as anti-Islamic, and Erdogan did away with all these practices. But the bigger problem lies underneath. It lies with the youth, because they could not do much about it, as the Turkish youth and society has turned completely towards European lifestyle and away from Islam, and just follow the political Islam, and that too in their personal spaces. As you can see yourself, the Turkish society, Erdogan and the ultra-Orthodox Muslims want to undo these reforms that were undertaken by Kemal Pasha Attaturk by bringing Islam into public life. However, the last coup of 2016 was quite different from others that took place in the past. With all the coups of the past, there were officers who were staunchly anti-Islamist, staunchly secular, strongly pro-Western, who were leading a movement in a coordinated fashion. The last coup, or should I say the failed coup of 2016, was neither of it. They were Islamists, just like the Erdogan, but with an American support and a Gulen. The 2016 coup failed for various reasons. The country was not facing an economic crisis or political chaos. The attempt lacked societal support. And even the secular youth didn't want the coup, as they lived and educated in a Western European ways, and Western Europe don't have military coup. That's unfashionable, you know. And Erdogan remained popular among the Orthodox Muslims. That coup attempt harmed the military badly and offered Erdogan the legitimacy to purge all dissidents. The military is completely neutralized at this stage. They are not a factor in Turkish politics anymore. After the 2016 trauma, civil-military relations reached a new level as the officers' corps deposited most power into the hands of the government. such as the case of Syria, where the government has a great deal of influence. Erdogan has succeeded in shaking up the system and possibly preventing any future coup attempts. About 40% of Turkey's generals and admirals have been dismissed, and they are capturing Gülenist officers on a near daily basis. Academies and military schools have now been reopened, but they are more careful in who they allow to enter. In the immediate aftermath of the last coup attempt, the military's reputation slumped, as the vast majority of people saw it as undemocratic attempt to change politics. The military leadership and the AKP government are currently on the same page and on very good terms. They see eye to eye on many issues and they go hand in hand in many regards. So the Turkish military can't pull up a coup even if it sees its president Erdogan make pro-Islamic moves like supporting headscarves or conversion of Hagia Sophia into a mosque. Erdogan has reduced the Turkish military to its weakest point, and even news like Myanmar military toppling the civilian government doesn't make much deep inroads in the Turkish military mind. So what it largely means is that the Erdogan has neutralized the army, and there probably may not be any further coup in near future in Turkey.